Hi, good morning. How are you? Today is Sunday, July 15th, and I am actually going to share a topic with you. It's called actually Constructions of Sexuality about the Black Community by Caucasians or Eurocentric Perspectives. I came across this text. It's called The Sexual Life of Savages. It's by Bronislaw Malinowski, and it sounds Polish or something from the European bloc. Now, at the time that this text was written, it was actually sold for $2.95. And what it does, it actually goes into um, it tries to explain the origins of sexuality of a black tribe in Africa from a white perspective. Now, this particular text I bought for $18.99, inflation, and it was written actually in, hold on, well, it was copyrighted in actually 1929, so it was written before then. But what it does, it actually goes into, trying to explain the sexuality of a black community, in particular a black tribe in Africa. Now, I'll just let you look at the text, and you see you have the heterosexual symbol. And one of my questions is, why would you even write something about that, about a black community, or even any type of ethnic community, if you're not from the ethnic community? For example, I'd like to read some texts about the sexual savagery of the Caucasian culture in certain parts in wherever they'd identify themselves as white tribes. Like it's that kind of logic, and for me, I personally wouldn't be interested in reading about that unless I was, well, unless I was actually studying something like insanity or distortions around personality, or things around pathological, which part of my study is also about pathological, but it's more or less trying to use genetics to actually solve pathological issues. So pathology would be, my classification of pathology would be, like, for instance, inhumanity. So people who continue to do things that are very destructive to social infrastructure over and over and over again. How do you actually correct that defective genetic? And that's my position that I'm coming from. And it's interesting to even explore stuff related to genetics, because I actually have a text written in the 1940s about genetics, and it's written from a European perspective. But what about genetics from a black perspective? And it's really interesting to see these European constructions of medicine and behavioral and a lot of stuff related to these dichotomies, or dichotomies, and also things related to, for example, racial profiling. Because, for example, Caucasians, or somebody using a Caucasian approach or Eurocentric approach, will actually take stuff like this and say this is actually some sort of gospel. But when you actually talk to someone like myself, who has read a text like this one called The Sexual Life of Savages, you look at it and you're like, what the fuck is this? This is pretty strange, from the position of someone who's from the community, to be written like that and not even have a perspective to say, wait a minute here, like, why would you write something like that? Or even to have infrastructure say, wait a minute here, people, why are you writing shit like that? So I go, when I come across stuff like this, what I do is, I'll show you a bit of my library. It's, sorry, these are just some of my texts. Okay. This actually is, I love this man, Johnny Cochran. I love his approach to petitioning, and this man is an excellent petitioner. And for some of you dumbasses out there, just remember that there's something called lawyers. You don't go and use the services of lawyers, but you actually find petitioners, and this is actually what we do as well. There's something called This is a text here. It's about ethics, experience, research, social change, methods beyond the mainstream. Now, this is written by, I believe, I haven't looked at the profile of the author, but it has some actually good stuff in there about how to evaluate um, ethics, as well as I've looked into um, some other ethical texts, like this one here is about dilemmas in research, around feminist ethics. But this is also one by the indigenous community, and it's called Protecting Indigenous Knowledge and Heritage. And it actually goes through, looking at ethics from an indigenous perspective. But I also look at ethics from, for example, black feminist perspectives. You have Sisters of the Yam, which is a text by Bell Hooks, and that's very critical with respect to ethics. So when I come across stuff like this, and I'm just looking at some more of my library to see if I can find